Mills with the Cronin home to talk about his job there. Welcome, Gary.
Hello, nice to meet y'all.
Yes, thank you for taking this opportunity. Can you tell us what it is you do at the Cronin home?
I am the assistant director, and we are a board and lodge for chronic chemically dependent homeless persons. So we don't do any treatment here, we don't do any programming, we're just a safe, sober environment for them to live at with what's called extra amenities. So if they need to come in and talk, we're always here. We have a nurse on staff. But what we deal with is chronic alcoholics and addicts, which tends to be 3 or more treatments, many legal issues, family issues, and let's see, they have nowhere else to go. And this is kind of their last resort before they go to what would be called a inebriate house where they're able to drink. So.
And these are adults that live there, correct?
Yes. Everybody we have has to be over 21. We've had them here 21 to a little over 80 years old. So.
And what is the average stint or stay of a person coming there? I know you said it's homelessness, but what does that look like?
It used to be 8 months. And it was almost, the average length of stay was 8 months. It was about a 45-year-old male that was here. And that's when I first started. Now, with how things have changed so much with social services and everything else, we're looking about a 3-month stint at the most. They come in and they're out right away. And that isn't due to funding. That's due to a change in personality from the resident, as well as a change in of things within the state.
Okay. So what do you do in that role in working with these folks?
I assess who comes in, whether they're safe to come here, whether they're not safe. I look at, are there legal issues such that they're safe to come here? Or are they more criminal than they are homeless and struggling from chemical dependency? I look at their mental health to see whether their mental health is such, whether they should be here or not. If they're actively suicidal or homicidal, they come here. If they can't do the basic functions of their life, then they cannot come here. Other than that, they're welcome to come here as long as they meet the criteria of the homelessness and the treatment episodes for chemical dependency. I also take care and do the day-to-day operations, and I am the supervisor for all the staff here. So them are some of the things that I do. It's kind of a catch-all. You'll find me from anywhere from sitting behind the desk doing computer work to meeting with a resident to going out and sometimes scrubbing up the floors or vacuuming or things like that. I'm a different type of supervisor than most because I believe that the supervisor has to be out there amongst your staff, and the residents appreciate it as well as the staff do.
That's great. Makes good relationships then too, I'm sure.
It does. A lot of respect.
What, in terms of relationship building, what other skills are needed to do a job like that? Because it sounds like you have a lot on your plate, and I don't just think a high school student could do that.
Some of the technical skills are, anybody that can work here with a high school degree, but when you start getting up to the kind of the where you're going to be administration, we tend to look at some sort of partial college or advanced college degree. The other skills that are needed, the main thing is you have to be insightful, you have to be respectful, you have to have good boundaries. And what I mean by insightful, you have to think of, if I was a person living here, where would I hide stuff? How would I sneak to get by? As well as insightful to see if this person is struggling or not. Should I just pull them in and say, see how they're doing today? Those little things that are extra tend to help out a lot. The respect that goes along with it, they respect you if you have good boundaries and you treat them with respect. The minute they see someone that is phony or does not show the respect or tries to talk a big game about maybe they were there or they weren't there or whatever, the residents see right through it and they tend to play on it. So most of the residents we work with are nobody different than you'd have as a neighbor. They just struggle with one form of an ailment that they can't get over, or they don't have the capability of getting over or the interest of getting over it. So.
And how long have you been in this role?
I've been here at Cronin Home going into my 15th year, and I've been in the field for 17 years, going into 17 years. So before that, I was in grad school for psychology. And before that, I had a biology major and worked for the DNR in Iowa for a couple of years.
Oh, okay. So in regards to a career in this field, dealing with the addictions, the psychology is kind of the background you're looking for?
Yes. Psychology, sociology, things along that line, and just interest in it. If you want to get into the field just as a job, it's going to either eat you alive, or you will burn out quickly, or you will be taken advantage of. This is not just a 9-to-5 job. This is something that bothers you a lot, and you need to have good coping skills on your own end to learn that there's a boundary of when you go home, your job stays at work. And although there's times that it still comes home with you, you need to learn to do your best of catching when it's coming home with you and stopping it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good description, that it's not just a 40-hour-a-week position.
No, it isn't. And in my opinion, it shouldn't be over 32 hours. There shouldn't be over a 32-hour work week. You shouldn't be at a job like this for over 32 hours and then you're home taking care of yourself and taking care of other things. It takes up that much of your life.
Yeah, have to devote part of yourself to work and part of yourself to home and manage both of them.
Absolutely.
You have been there 15 years. What keeps you in the position of the job, and what keeps you motivated to do it every day?
It's a number of different things. One thing is just to be honest, as I've been here 15 years, I'm very comfortable. Been here 15 years. I know what to expect when I come into work. I know my coworkers. That makes me comfortable. That's more the personal end of it. The other end of it is I come in and it's the little things. If people are looking for kudos from your fellow staff or your fellow the residents, you're in the wrong field. You need to be able to come in, and when the kudos come, they come in little forms. I always give the example, every year we have a Christmas party for the residents, and you don't always get a thank you from the residents when you hand out their gifts and some of the Christmas stuff. But what you get is a smile that you may have not seen on a regular basis, and a head nod and maybe a thank you along with it. And that means more to me because that's real. A thank you is not necessarily real, but the expressions and the gratefulness on their face is real. And that's what keeps me going. The other thing keeps me going is it keeps my mind going. I'm the type of person that has to have my mind going all the time. And this clientele will take you down back alleys, down back roads. You never know what's going to come up next, good or bad. And, it may be, this person's trying to get high in the house, or this person's using here, or this person's mental health wise struggling. And then there's the other side of it, as you think that a person that comes in that isn't going to do good, and they really wow you and do wonderful and turn it around. So it's those two things that kind of keep me going. It's kind of the surprises, as well as just the ability to keep my mind going and working with people, working with the clientele. So
I'm glad you went down that road, because you mentioned that you were in DNR and then went to psychology. So DNR is more, I would think, wildlife conservation. So what made you switch from that to working with people, which you really sound to enjoy right now?
I didn't have a very good experience with the DNR.
Okay.
I found that the supervision, and it wasn't so much, it was partially the supervision I had, but the upper echelon supervision was unwilling to listen to the people with the boots on the ground. And it was at that point that I knew someday I wanted to be a supervisor, because I knew what I felt was disrespectful needed to change. And I knew that if I got in a supervisory position, that I would be able to give back that respect that I felt was needed, to listen to the crew that's on the ground and out there, to see what they had in need of. As well as it got boring. It was not what I expected. The jobs were not there. And I ended up leaving a part of the DNR that was pretty poorly managed, and I went back home and lived there for a while. And a friend of mine that I met told me, she goes, "Gary, you got to do something different. Your mind's getting the best of you. You need to do something different." So it was that time that I got into psychology, and I went back to school for psychology. They ended up getting my master's, and my plan was to work with male abuse victims, because I felt it was such a underrated group that was overlooked all the time, because people neither thought that males were abused, felt that males needed to get over it, or that it just wasn't as prevalent. So there was nobody out there for male abuse victims. And after going to school for it, for a while and getting into my master's, I decided that I needed to get some experience in the field. And I knew that one of the fields that I needed to get experience in was chemical dependency, because it went hand in hand with the abuse and the assault stuff that went on. And after I got a job in the field, which was with a facility that dealt with chronic alcoholics, and it was a treatment facility, I decided that, wow, this was really a group that I could really work with. I really loved working with it. And I didn't have the paperwork and the licensure and things I needed to do to work as a therapist. And I really liked that idea better. And I ended up getting this job offered to me. So I took it, and I've been here since. I get the taste and the flavor of working with the mental health as well as the abuse victims, giving them actually more, in my mind, at times more treatment that they need, and then what I could as a therapist. So I was able to get that, and since I've been here, there has been times that I've been a huge advocate for male rights, not only male rights, abuse victim rights, but male rights when it came to child support, divorce, and things along that line, that a lot of times the males were not heard. So there's been some agencies that have popped up that have taken that underneath their wing, and it's nice to be able to see that, because then I can start referring a lot to those other places. So
Very cool. Thank you for that description. I really enjoyed hearing your journey. You mentioned that somebody 18 could start there. What would that position be, and what kind of pay would that start at if they were entry level?
We would, if someone that was 18 that came in that wanted to work here, we would look them over rather tough, to be honest with you. We would, if we felt that they were appropriate, we would hire them. The position would be a lot of cooking, a lot of cleaning, handing out meds, being comfortable handing out disciplinary infractions, like if they came back intoxicated or things like that, they would have to be willing to follow the rules and the guidelines that we go with and feel comfortable handing out that. A lot of times people at first that are 18 aren't comfortable with that. There are some that are. I have worked with some that are very comfortable. They're 18, 19, 20 years old, and they're very good at their job. So you have to be able to have those boundaries set up and feel comfortable. But it isn't as, some people hear that you work in the field and you work here and they think, oh, wow, that's great. And it isn't necessarily what you think it is. It's a lot more at a entry level. It's a lot more cooking, cleaning, a lot more doing rounds, making sure everybody's where they're supposed to be, things along that line. But you also have the other stuff that comes along with it. You have the urinalysis tests, you have the breathalyzers, you get to meet the residents, you get that stuff that goes along with it too. But if you think, it's one of those things to where if a person thinks they're going to be sitting behind a desk all day and meeting with clients and talking about their struggles, that is not what this job is about. And there isn't a whole lot of jobs out there like that anymore. Even the therapist jobs, they spend they meet with the client a half an hour to 45 minutes and they're doing an hour and a half of paperwork. So it's not that I'm trying to discourage people from getting into that field, because that field is highly needed. They just have to be prepared for what they get into. I don't like to have people have surprises, spend $80,000 or $100,000 on a degree, and then they come out and they find that they're doing entry level work, because there's a lot of that goes on as well. So.
Right. Thank you for that, because that's exactly what we're doing with these videos, making sure they understand what they're getting themselves into.
And if they have interest, if there's people that have interest at 18 years old, they're welcome to either volunteer or shadow for a few days. We just had one young lady volunteer, and she came out, and we need to get a hold of her, see if she wants to come out again. But there's opportunities like that where you can begin to get a flavor of it, to see what it's like, to see if it's something that you're interested in. And that would be what I would highly suggest, even if it's just a few hours a week, that you could do that to kind of get a flavor of what it's like.
And would they follow you like through email or contact you on a phone, or what would you prefer to do that?
Email's easiest. And we have a website. It's thecroninhome.org, or they can email me at gary@thecroninhome.org.
Perfect. If there's any last advice that you want to give to a high school student watching this today about their future in a addictions field or the Cronin home, what might that be?
You have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. You have to have good, strong boundaries. And you have to come into it with the problem that we've ran into compared to years ago, compared to today, is years ago, the community worked as a team. You had social workers, you had financial workers, you had probation officers, and you had treatment centers, as well as us would work hand in hand. We'd have team meetings together. We'd do all these things together to talk about a client, which gave the client a better overall experience of and chance of doing better. We have found that people don't do that anymore. There's none of the groups getting together. They think that they can do it on their own, and it's very frustrating working with counselors, probation officers, and all that think that they don't need anybody else's input. I think it's important that there's that input that takes place. I think the other two things is, do not expect to get in this field and make a ton of money, because it's not there. If I went out of this field and got a job somewhere in the similar position, I'd probably easily make double what I make now. And that's not, to me, that's not worth it, because I like what I'm doing. But if that's what you're in it for, is money, then don't get into this field, because there's not a whole lot of money in it. It's just that you have to like doing it. So them are the two things. The other thing is like I said, good, strong boundaries, working as a team, getting as much experience as you can, and being open-minded to the experience and open-minded to what other people have to say. Because even no matter how tough the person may seem or how strong your supervisor may be, there's still bits or pieces that you can get out of it that mean a lot. So.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much for your time today, Gary. This has been great.
Thank you.